Yep.
So I'm going to wait till we have Mike there. Okay, this is a team discussion about the conversational style that we use. So I had a preliminary conversation with Alan and Pat yesterday. You know, you guys are doing a great job. Let me preface by saying you guys are doing a great job. You're working really well together. You've stepped up. You've found ways to be more and more open and more upfront and quick to kind of say, I'm having difficulty with this. I want to talk about this. You know, you really stepped up the game. There have been a couple of things, I've experienced a couple of things. Here's me trying to be unarguable. Unarguable means that I say I. My natural tendency is to say, and I want you guys to call me on this too, because I'll be calling you on it. I just said there are some things that have happened recently. That is arguable. That is not unarguable. So let me clean that up and say, I have experienced some interactions over the past couple of weeks that went in a way that left me feeling uncomfortable and confused as to what was really being said. So, and what the problem with that is then I made up a story in my head. So you don't actually have to look at the handouts because that's for follow-up. Right now, we're just having a conversation. So the simple statement about unarguably is that I take responsibility for what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm observing, and what I'm experiencing. Instead of saying, this is unacceptable, boom, I need to say,
I never do that. You're gonna have to get that on tape.
thank you, Alan. Your rebuttal was heard. Will the committee please recognize Alan Blad from, I don't know, Pennsylvania, who has now spoken on behalf of the defense. And so Pat and Alan and I had a kerfluffle a couple weeks ago. Pat had made a statement that I reacted to, and I didn't use unarguable language, and I didn't clear it up at the time, and it rented a lot of headspace. Then Kurt and I had a conversation. Can I mention that, Kurt? Okay. Last Monday. And Kurt said to me, you're okay with that, Kurt?
Of course.
Okay, I thought you would be. Some people feel like there are too many meetings and we really need to be spending time doing our business and, you know, working with customers and selling stuff and, you know, the business that we're in. I did not inquire further when Kurt said that. I got defensive, which is my wiring, and I kind of tried to rebut it, but I didn't explore it. And I didn't say, Kurt, I need to understand more about what you're saying, because I'm going to leave here and make up a story in my head. And I did. For a couple of days, I wrestled with the story. Last Monday, last Tuesday, as Kurt said to me yesterday, why didn't you call? Well, you know, that's my stuff and I own it. So I wrestled with some stuff in my head and I said, you know, I went into my own WTF mode. This is how I am, you guys. The reason I get to teach this stuff is because I get to live it every single day. So, you know, I wanted to circle back and have that conversation yesterday afternoon, which Kurt and I did, and to talk about, you know, using the language of I. Now, Alan, can you, because I don't want people to be confused, because I know how you feel about I versus we. Yet for me to say we sometimes, you know, we are having a problem with, I just want to say, who is that? The Queen? You know, we, the royal we? Because I don't know who else is in the we. The only person I can speak for is me. Kurt, you were gonna say something?
Just ask if they have a mouse in their pocket when they say we.
Okay. Yeah, the mouse in the pockets that too. So, you know, just it's about, and that's why we've got the accountability video. It's about 100% accountability. I am 100% accountability for me and my part. I am not 100% accountable for you and your part, because you need to be accountable for you. And that's the way we all step up. So unarguable means I take responsibility for what I'm thinking, I'm feeling, and what I'm observing. So a way that I would have preferred that we had had the conversation is that Kurt said to me, I'm uncomfortable with the amount of time people are being called into meetings. Then Kurt and I could have had that conversation. One of the challenges of the story, and you guys have done so much better in the past couple of years, is people don't have conversations with the people that they've got the issue with, and then they have conversations with other people. And that starts setting up kind of an underground conversation. So the rule of thumb that I was taught is if I'm talking with someone about you, so if I have a problem with Mike and I'm talking to Kurt about that problem, I picked you, Mike, because of course I would never have a problem with you. But I would then say, if I'm talking to Kurt, but I haven't yet spoken to Mike about it, that is gossip. And gossip gets very toxic very fast, as you guys have already lived through and you already know. So I need to have a conversation with the person I'm having the issue with, or the person who's in charge of what I'm concerned about, or the person who has information. You know, I need to have that conversation. Then if I want to really be clean, what I need to do is ask permission. So I can say, Mike, is it okay if I talk with Kurt about what we just talked about? So that's the way to be 100% unarguable. Because there's a lot of things that we can make a statement about, you know, what we need to do, what needs to happen, all of that. And it's arguable because it's basically only my opinion. So for it to be unarguable, I need to own it. So I'm going to open the discussion. I want to hear kind of what this brings up for you, you know, where you think it has application and how you're going to work with it. So who wants to go first?
Is this on the topic?
If you don't even want to go first, who will go first? Mike.
Are we talking about the topic of too many meetings?
No, we're talking about speaking unarguably. Now, if at some point you want to say, I have a problem with too many meetings, that's what we're talking about, is how you communicate that.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, moving forward through 2021, I just think that the time that I do need to spend out there.
Okay, that's not what we're talking about, Mike. We're not talking about that right now.
Okay.
We're talking about how we communicate with each other.
I don't know. I'm pretty, I'll talk to you if I have to.
I'm going to go out on a limb,
Okay, please.
right? And this is a big thing for me. So I wasn't 100% accountable for myself. And I had a problem. And I never said anything. I would like to say it now, but I'm trembling inside.
I know this is a stretch for you, Mary Jo.
Yeah. So I'll just say it. And you know, it was my problem. And the issue was I felt excluded when I was not invited to go on the team building exercise. And I struggled with addressing it with just maybe Pat or Alan. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And so I need to take care of myself, and I need to let other.
You just muted yourself.
I don't know. Is that what we're talking
Well,
about? Or
yes,
did I
that's
just
a great
shoot myself in the foot?
No, Mary Jo, that's a great example. When you talked to me about it,
I did.
but I did not bring it to Alan and Pat because that's when we get into that triangulation. I did tell you it was your responsibility to.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so standing up and having those eye conversations. So Mary Jo's talking about the clay pigeon shooting and her feelings
Yeah.
about it. You can follow up like with Mike in the meetings. We can follow up after that about those questions. We've got Alan unmuted. How about, was that for you, Brian, or Alan, or Pat Gallagher?
I would just say to Mary Jo, thank you for coming out and saying that. Those things I'm welcome to address anytime they come up. My door is always open. And we had, I mean, it's not a conversation for now. We have a lot of reasons why we did what we did with that, but it wasn't to hurt anybody's feelings. But anyway, those are very open conversations, and I welcome them. I don't at any time. And I would also say, moving forward with this team, privy to our conversation yesterday, Pamela, that we had, I would say that, you know, I'm committed to, I mean, in the past, I've had to use the unacceptable communication language with people because it's the only tool that I had in my shed at the time that would work with some company that's not with us anymore. And it's not a tool that I need to use with this team that we have currently. They've already proven themselves that they're very open and willing to go out and make change and do things. And you know, in the past, I had been promised things for years that were going to happen, and it was day in, day out grind and unfulfilled commitments that were just left open. So I'm committed moving forward with the new team that we have to be able to work and speak very openly and in a different way and fashion, and to have those conversations that I need to have, because I think those conversations will be respected and will be appreciated, and so forth. So that's my 2 cents moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I'm going to ask everybody to weigh in and say what your understanding of speaking unarguably is and how you might live it in your interactions with everybody. Just so at the end of this, I'm not sure that I communicated clearly, so I need some feedback, please.
I would say that, you know, where I participate in that is I'll make declarative statements that are generalizations of what I believe things are after the fact, you know. So many times after this meeting session and then the following meeting session, I'll walk in, go smoke a cigarette, and it'll be me, Kurt, and Joe, and we'll be laughing about something that occurred inside there, like, what are we doing? And, you know, or, you know, saying like, aren't we all frustrated with how that just went? You know, when really it was myself that was feeling that way for whatever reason. So I think that's what you're asking for. And I think that's where I participate in what you're asking for. But that meeting after the meeting stuff happens very often, and I find myself to be a part of that pretty regularly.
Okay. All right, thank you. That is exactly one of the things I'm talking about. Thank you. Pat?
To me, it means, you know, we all know about customer service. When you're talking to somebody, you see WAM on their forehead. What about me? And you're supposed to, you know, think about what their thoughts and needs are and why you're having the conversation. I would suggest, to me, it would mean written on your forehead is, what do you want me to do about it? You know, and if you can't answer that question, what do you want me to do about it? Go to the person you have an issue with or a problem with or concern with and talk to them about it. You can coach it in different ways and make it, you know, softer or you know, more delicate if you need to. But if you're speaking with somebody and you realize, what do you want me to do about it? And they can't do anything about it, you realize you're speaking in the wrong way. You need to really get a better person to be speaking with, someone that can actually change what your issues are.
Okay, so you're saying that you're actually speaking to the wrong person if that question.
Right. And if you realize you're doing that and you realize this person isn't the one I should be talking to, I think that might be a mind trigger to say, look, this isn't what we should be talking about. Let me go talk to so-and-so who can actually change it and fix it. Let's not work through Pamela to talk to somebody for us, or talk to so-and-so to talk to somebody for us. Let's go talk to that person. If we need help in how to communicate, Pamela's the right person to maybe help us out, how to better communicate that. But you're not supposed to be the go-between where I'll tell Pamela and she'll tell so-and-so.
I won't do it because it puts me right in the middle of the triangle.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm hearing is what your point is here.
So the other part I'm hearing of what you're saying, Pat, is if someone comes to you with something that you're not the right person to hear it,
Mhm.
one of the first things is to say, have you talked to,
Fair. That's fair. That's
you
a
know,
good
the other person? And then if they have and have not gotten resolution, that's another thing. But with me, I am always going to say, you need to talk to the person you have the issue with, because I have no power. I have no authority. What am I going to do? Thank you. Who else is here?
I think for me, I just want to make clear when we have, look, I'm here to help in any way, fashion that I can, add support where needed, no matter what it is. And, you know, when we have those type of conversations or we're talking about meetings, whether it be with the group or an individual, I just want to make sure clear that, you know, they need to have that conversation with the appropriate party. And if they need my help, I'll help. But it's not, I don't want to take it on as my responsibility to do those communications. And I think that'll help the group grow in itself.
Yeah. All right, Joe, you want to weigh in? Joe and Mike?
So maybe I'm a little confused by the question, but what comes to mind for me personally, and touching on what Pat was just talking about, like I think we've come so far, maybe before we had some communication issues with really a specific somebody, but having Mike, for me personally, having Mike in the role that he is now, you know, he's a lot better of a communicator than I am. I tend to sometimes wear my emotions on my sleeve and get myself in a little bit of trouble, and kind of shoot from the hip before I think. So having Mike to really work out some of my issues, and I don't want to say my issues, but some of the team's issues and some of the things that are at the forefront, and communicate them, and not even issues, just some of the things that we're doing and moving forward with and doing a good job with, and having Mike as the go-between and the guy communicating with upper management now and Pat, and it just seems like there's a lot more transparency than there's ever been, and it just seems like we're moving forward in a lot better way. At least for me personally, I think the communication is by far eons better than it's ever been.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's all about I statements. So I also share that perception, but you would know best because it's your everyday reality. Mike?
Well, for me, I mean, you know, to simplify, to dumb it down, when these meetings, after the meetings take place, in the past, I caught myself being right involved with it, because we'd leave a meeting and we'd look at each other and say, what the F just happened here? Okay, we're no further ahead than we were an hour ago. So I was involved in some of that, and I just shook my head and said, all right, well, better luck next week. You know what I mean? Where you know, that's beyond us. So we need to take 2021 and shape it for whatever we want at this point in time, in my opinion. These meetings are what we make it, okay? We can drag them out, or we can simplify it and look at the task on hand, plug through them one by one, and I think that's really what the issues need to be. If there's something to be said and you're not comfortable doing it, again, Kurt's not gonna be your crutch, but in the same token, go to him for guidance. He can articulate it to where it may not be offensive. And that helps with me because sometimes I can be a little offensive. So, you know, I look to him or Pat or Alan to maybe display or bring it to people in a way that makes sense without hurting somebody's feelings. So for me, that works best.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Pat Gallagher, Sam Rudin, Mary Jo?
Yeah, to me, it's more of a clarity thing, is how I'm interpreting it. Is more of a, you got to speak in a way where there can't be any kind of misinterpretation of what you mean. And in the sense that if you have a specific opinion, don't try and like provide your opinion couched as the opinion of a group of others as well. I mean, if you have an opinion as an individual, that's something you're entitled to. It doesn't have to be a group opinion or, I know I'm sure I've talked to some people about coming to consensus as a kind of like a Quaker philosophy. But to me, it's more of in this sense, it's more it's more destructive to try and like fit into the group than hide your individual opinion. I know Pamela, you and I have talked about before, like I'm more conditioned to think that everyone has a valuable opinion than some others based on my education. In this scenario, it's more don't assume that other people's opinions are your opinion.
Yep.
Unless you know that you've had that explicit conversation.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Pat Gallagher?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I'm getting out of it, and I've done it many times, is tried to group in like that we instead of it being the I. So really that's what I'm taking out of this, is more of a conscious, ability to step back and see that and make sure I'm phrasing things correctly in the I instead of, trying to group that as a we.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very much about personal accountability. And this is the appropriate use of I. And this is down to thoughts, feelings, and experience. Mary Jo, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, if I want to be part of a group, I first have to have responsibility for myself and to voice my opinion in the group and keep it in the I. And
Yep.
that way I feel as though I'm contributing something.
So thank you. Thank you. I attached a video that's 4.47 minutes. It's about a radical way of looking at responsibility, that it's not a pie where we portion out who's responsible when things screw up. And I'm thinking, Mary Jo, in your role often, we're dividing up the pie. We got a customer who's unhappy, 20% belongs to parts, 30% belongs to the service advisor, rather than taking a model, and they have a great example of operating rooms where everybody has 100%. And what does that look like? So I encourage you to take a little less than 5 minutes to watch the video. You have 2 handouts that kind of review what 100% responsibility, kind of a worksheet for you to say, what am I 100% responsible for in a current situation we're dealing with? And the other one is just some more guidelines about what it means to speak unarguably. I really will ask your help to help me change a lifelong habit of making pronouncements and using more I statements. As consultants, we're kind of trained to make these pronouncements, but it doesn't help relationships. So I would really like support, and I'd like to work collaboratively around personal accountability at the level of thoughts and feelings, actions, observations, and opinions. So thank you all for your time. We're all good. Everything's going great. I will see you next week. I am still trying to take this week off. So I'm going to say, unless anybody has anything else, see ya, and I will stop the video.
Good luck.